Welcome to Only Murders in My Mind. Hello everyone. It soon gets round to Thursday, doesn't it? And Only Murders in My Mind with Liz Hedgecock.
Hello.
And Mike Jackson.
Hello.
Hope you're all well today, and I hope you're enjoying, well, what the weather ever is at your place.
Today we're lucky, it's sunny here.
Yes. That's true. I remember, like this thing about sort of, you can be in one town and it's doing one thing, and it can be in another town and it's doing something completely different. When I lived up the lakes, I was coming home from Barrow one day, and the snow literally had a line in the road when I went into my town.
Wow.
It was all the roads, all the streets, everything were clear, and it'd been snowing really heavily in Barrow. I was like, this is a miracle.
No, it's just British weather.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's like God had drawn a line and gone, you're not snowing on that bit there. Yes, it was fun. So we had another person who listened to one of our podcasts send us a little message. So talk among yourselves while I find it. So you can tell how prepared I am for these things. This was to do with the world of Sherlock Holmes, which was our last podcast a couple of weeks ago. And this was a comment by Georgie B1965. And it was a short message, but it said, Jeremy Brett version basically restored my faith in the character, as watching the Rathbones vision just completely turned me off for a number of decades, and then Elementary, I feel, was and is the proper successful to the Brett version of Holmes. Yay! I'd agree with that. So thank you very much for that. As I say, we are interested in your comments, and if there's something you'd like us to do on one of the podcasts, talk about one of the subjects, please tell us.
I think that was a popular one, that Sherlock Holmes one. I think quite a few people have enjoyed that one.
Yes, I think they did.
Can't beat a bit of Sherlock.
No. I saw something
Sherlock.
interesting the other day. And I think we've had this conversation before. Well, I know we have, because I know that Liz has written some Sherlock-style stories. And we've talked about copyright, and it's out of copyright, isn't it?
Indeed.
And I was looking on Amazon. I was watching a YouTube video about KDP and self-publishing on Amazon.
Yeah.
And when you watch a YouTube video, you start watching something for one reason, and then after about 3 or 4 different rabbit holes, you find yourself looking at something completely different.
Oh, I couldn't possibly comment.
I don't know how I got there, but I found myself on Amazon looking at some books that have been written, which are children's versions of Sherlock Holmes.
Oh, okay.
So basically what somebody has done is taken something like Hound of the Baskervilles or any of the stories. In fact, this was a box set I saw by this one person, and they've adapted them so that they're suitable for 9, 10, 11-year-olds.
I'm just trying to imagine that with the Hound of the Baskervilles, but...
Maybe it was a big fluffy dog.
Yeah, be interesting that. And funny, I was talking to my wife about this. She said, I would have loved somebody to have done that with Charles Dickens, because I like Charles Dickens, but I found them just too wordy and too, when I was a child, too wordy. I would have loved as an introduction. And some of the reviews on this Sherlock Holmes one, quite often the reviews by parents who were saying, my 9-year-old loved these, and I think it will, as he gets older, make him want to go in and read the original or the full version. So I just found that interesting.
That is interesting, because I had no idea that I wouldn't even have thought about doing something like that.
Yeah. See, I'm used to the idea that you see abridged versions, and I definitely remember some of those growing up in like the local library. So like the Count of Monte Cristo abridged, or Tale of Two Cities abridged. But not like a kid version.
Yeah.
But...
War and Peace abridged.
Yeah. Oh, I have read it, actually.
I have.
I don't think I could read it again.
So I'm looking forward to the kids' version of War and Peace.
It was a bit chilly.
Yes.
Or the kids' version of some of the Stephen King's books, horror stories.
Sharp it. Yeah.
Here comes the red balloon, folks.
I read War and Peace, Anna Karenina. I'm trying to think. I was into Russian literature at the time. The Apple Orchard, is that?
Cherry Orchard?
Thank you for that. See, I can't even remember the name of it.
Just the wrong fruit. I mean, it was pretty minor.
You've seen one orchard, you've seen them all.
Dr. Zhivago. Oh, no, that's not. It's not by a Russian author, is it? Dr. Zhivago. Was it?
I don't know who. No, I don't.
I'd have to check.
We need to check that one. It is set in Russia, though.
Oh yes, and that makes you feel very cold. That film. So today our subject is Harlen Coben. Not what did I say the other week? The singer Coben.
It is Russian, by the way.
Oh, it is. Oh, there you go.
Yes.
I read that. It was Russian.
A novel
as well.
by Russian poet, author, and composer Boris Pasternak.
Ah,
There you
of
go.
course.
First published in Italy.
See, I knew it was Pasternak, but for some reason I thought they were French. I don't know.
Did you I'm trying to think? Maybe Leonard Cohen.
No, it
No.
was a pop. It was a rock star. But anyway,
Leonard Cohen's a great singer. Have you ever listened to Leonard Cohen?
Yes, I
Yeah.
have. Yeah.
I think he's wonderful.
Yeah.
My wife will leave the room if I put Leonard Cohen on. So I put it on all the time.
It sounds like my reaction to Rush, who my husband
She said-
absolutely loves.
I don't know why it makes you want to cut your throat. She said, listening to this stuff, it's so deadly and dull. I said, no, it's wonderful.
I think it was Kirk Cobain. I
Kurt
was getting
Cobain.
mixed up with.
Yeah.
So who is Harlan Coben?
He was born on the 14th of January 1962 and is known as a United States of America writer. His books have been translated into 43 languages and he has sold 90 million copies worldwide. I bet he's laughing all the way to the bank.
I bet
Oh,
he is,
I
yeah.
imagine so.
But funny enough, he didn't set out as a writer.
No.
Mm.
He studied political science at Amherst College, which apparently one of his contemporaries at the time was Dan Brown of the Da Vinci Code.
Maybe they were just spewing out
Yeah.
writers.
Yeah, yeah.
Maybe. Well, yeah, he didn't realise that he wanted to write until he was in his senior year at college. So
Apparently went into the travel industry
He
when he
did.
left
It was a
college.
family business,
Yeah, his
wasn't it?
grandfather owned it. Yeah, and that is about the time when he wrote his first novel, which was called Play Dead, published in 1990.
Yeah, he was 26 when that
Yeah.
was published. And by the sounds of it, you don't think he had any trouble getting a publisher either.
No,
There was, because I mean, when you talk about Stephen King, he did scrabble around for quite a long time getting publishers and things,
Yes.
didn't he? He was getting a few dollars here and a few dollars there for different stories and things, but he seems to have, he obviously hit a gap in the market. I'm not saying he wasn't a good writer. He is a good writer, but
I mean I like Harlan Coben, and
Yeah.
one of the things I think sets him apart is that his stories, there's that mix of sort of, I don't know, domestic drama and psychological suspense, because it's not all about crime scenes and detectives. I mean, most of his stories, many of his stories, are set in suburbia.
they are.
Yeah.
They are.
Right.
Yeah,
With it-
it's usually a tell when
Yeah.
when if I'm start to watch one on the television, I've not clocked who's written it. Like, oh, this looks familiar.
Yeah. And it's everyday people, ordinary people, who suddenly get pulled into a deadly situation.
And they have got lots of twists and turns, which I find fascinating. It takes you rabbit holes, takes you down a couple of rabbit holes, and
Yeah.
you're suspecting somebody's done it, and you're so wrong.
Yeah.
So wrong.
Apparently, I read somewhere, and it's certainly true of the ones I've read, that one of his trademarks is starting with a strong hook, a single question that flips reality on its head, and it mentions the stranger. I remember watching this one. I'm not sure if I've read this, but I've certainly seen it on the television, where a man's perfect life unravels after a complete stranger comes up to him. I think it was in a coffee shop, and tells him a devastating secret about his wife.
Oh yes, yes.
So this chap's world is just, by that comment, his whole world is turned upside down
Wow.
because he needs to find out if that's true.
Yeah.
And my latest one that I've seen, Only Fool Me Once, where a woman supposedly sees a dead husband on a nanny cam.
Yeah. That's my favourite so far.
Well, that one was filmed. It was a Netflix film,
Yeah.
and it was filmed near here. It was filmed at Arley Hall.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Arley Hall is my wife and I, it's one of our favourite places to go. And I remember at the time, before the film came out, we were up there. We were walking. They've got lovely gardens there, and we were by the gardens, and there was this grave, the raised earth and a cross in the ground. where a week before it'd just been nice grass. It was part of their beautiful gardens. And we remember talking to somebody, and they said, "Oh no, they've done that for a film, and after they finish filming today, it'll all be gone." And it was. Next time we were up, the grave had gone and everything. And then you see it in the film, and immediately thinking, "Oh yes, I remember. I know exactly where that was." Yeah.
I've been there. But we were just talking before we started recording about this series we neither of us had heard of,
Yes.
which is Myron
Bolitar.
Bolitar.
Myron Bolitar.
Yeah, which was very successful by the sounds of it. And this was based on a guy who ends up. He's actually a sports agent that used to be a basketball player, if I've got this right, and he starts investigating the murders of his clients. I'm just wondering, you would avoid him, wouldn't you? Go, I'm not going to that agent, you get killed.
It's funny, because I've read some of these, and it's when I was doing this, I think, I don't remember Myron Bolitar. It's a sort of name you remember.
Yes, it's unusual.
You would, yeah.
But the secondary character is a chap called Wynne. Windsor Horn Lockwood III,
Oh, yeah.
known as Wynne. And as soon as I saw that, I remembered, because Wynne is the best friend of the hero, Myron Bolitar. And he'd be described as a anti-hero having psychopathic tendencies. And in many of the books, Wynne and Myron debate the ethical nature of various actions, because Wynne has a propensity to use violence to get results.
Yes.
If he found out that somebody had wronged somebody else, then his solution would meet him in a dark alley and break both his knees and maybe both arms as well. And he thought that was okay because he was doing it to somebody who deserved it.
Who wasn't good, yeah.
So there was a real contrast between the two characters
Yeah.
from that ethical point of view.
I'm just looking at the list of books here, and it looks like there's one book which is a kind of a Windsor book.
Yeah.
So, and that was 2021. So I wonder when there might be another. 'Cause it sounds like it is supposed to be another spin-off series from Myron Bolitar, and there's another one which is Mickey Bolitar, apparently.
Yeah, that's for younger audience. So,
right.
I've not read any of those, but yeah, apparently it's Myron's teenage nephew solving
Right.
mysteries at high school.
Oh, right. Trying to cover all age groups
Yeah,
there.
so
Yeah,
it's covering
so
the
there's
young.
3 of those as well. But it looks like he's done a lot of standalones.
He has.
Which
Yes.
I assume is why you hadn't necessarily heard about the Myron
Yeah.
Bolitar.
Yeah, I've got
Nice.
he's done 9 standalone books and films, and then he got a massive multi-million dollar deal with Netflix.
Yes,
As you do.
Yeah,
as you do. I mean, I think I read that his deal was to adapt 14 of his novels.
yes, and then there'd either be series or films
Yeah.
that
But what-
Netflix made.
And what's really clever is that they're adapted across different countries.
Yes, they are.
So,
yes.
for example, that stranger one we were talking up at Arley was set in this country.
Yeah.
I then watched one on Netflix a few weeks later, thinking, I really enjoy Harlen Coben stories, and it was all in Spanish.
Yeah,
or something,
subtitles.
with subtitles.
Yeah,
you know.
and there's a couple in America.
Yeah.
Yeah, they do. They
Yeah.
do.
So that's where he's making his money, and
Oh,
apparently he
Well, also, apparently, he's done some series that aren't based on his books.
right, yeah,
So there's a show called The Five, which is British. Apparently, that was him, 2016. And there's a French-British crime drama called Safe, which was 2018 on Netflix.
I don't think I've seen them. I know when you were talking about standalone books, he did one called Hold Tight, and it was the first of his books to get to #1 in the New York Times. So a very, very well. He's working hard, isn't he?
Well, apparently he's the executive producer on
Yeah.
the Netflix films,
Yeah.
so he's keeping his hand
He's
in
got some control over what's being done.
And I've not seen them, but this Myron Bolitar series that we've talked about, and I don't know how many in the series there are, but that was added to the deal
Yeah,
in
looks like 11
2022.
so far.
Yeah, so that was added to the deal in 22. So that 14 that he started with is growing all the time.
I wonder how many books he writes a year, because I mean, that's probably the wrong question. I wonder how many pieces of work he puts out a year, because obviously if he's writing film scripts and things like that, maybe he doesn't do the adaptation for
I
them.
doubt it. I doubt if he does. I think he will be the executive producer, won't he?
oversees
But
it.
oversees
Yeah.
it.
Not,
Yeah.
Yeah, so but he does a lot, doesn't he? You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks like one a year or maybe two some years from this. So, and they're quite big books, aren't they?
Yes, they are.
Yes.
Yeah, they're not like mine.
Or mine. This next one I'm writing is going to be like, full length 60,000. So full
wow.
length for me, or possibly 65.
Yeah.
It's like, ooh,
That's a big book. Yeah,
it is for me. Yeah, I mean, I've only got to write half of it, but even so,
Yeah, no, but
I was just
I
looking.
clearly don't have Harlen Coben's
Yeah.
work ethic. No.
Apparently, The Stranger and Stay Close, two of his books,
yeah,
when they went onto Netflix, were adapted in the UK. The Innocent was adapted in Spain. Gone for Good was in France, and Hold Tight was in Poland.
yeah.
So it
I've
is-
seen the Polish one.
I have seen the Polish one.
with the subtitles.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
yeah, you're right, because you expect them to be spoken in English.
Well, you
In
don't
an
even
English-speaking country.
Yeah, I mean, and even the ones that were set in the UK, like that one we were talking about before, about set at Arley Hall. It's very much an English setting, and yet it was written originally with an American
yeah.
setting.
Well, then again, I mean, look at Elementary, where it all moved to New York.
Yes,
Yeah.
the whole kit
So,
and caboodle went over.
Maybe
there.
that's when you've really made it, when you can start messing with the setting of your books, and people still
Yeah.
know it's a Harlan Coben book.
Yeah, but to sell
Or
90
adaptations.
million copies, even
He's
if
clearly doing something.
I was
right?
going to say, even if he gets 50 cents a copy,
Well,
it's a lot of money.
his
It
real
is.
money now is coming from Netflix,
Yeah.
isn't it? And the films and the adaptations there,
But then again, that will boost the sales.
and that will boost the sales of the
Because,
books. Yes.
when The Handmaid's Tale came onto TV, then the book was number one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
can't watch that. I've tried to watch the first series and I find it quite disturbing.
I think
it should be.
I think it's meant to be, isn't
Yeah,
it?
it's a
Just
disturbing
dystopian.
book.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I keep thinking I should grip my teeth and watch it, because it gets, it's got so many.
It gets worse
fans.
later.
Oh, maybe not then.
No, we started with the second series, and it's just like, this is so depressing.
Yeah. Yes. That's the way I felt, because my daughter was saying, "Oh, it's really good," and I was thinking, I'll watch very often. I'll watch things on her. Another one is the thingy games where they've all got squares on the.
Hunger Games.
No.
Squid Game?
Squid Games.
Squid
She
Games.
keeps telling me I should watch that, and I've never got around. You've watched it, haven't you?
Yeah, you enjoy it.
I
Was I-
enjoyed the first series. We tried the first episode of the second series, and we were just like, I'm not feeling it.
Yeah.
So,
No, I've not
yeah.
not tried. I've tried the Hunger Games. I've read all the books. And
Yes, I've read the books and watched the
they're very
films.
good.
I like that. Yeah.
I prefer the book to the movie.
Yes, I
Yeah.
agree.
Yes, you're right. But
Yeah.
I did enjoy the.
But that's a knack, isn't it? Going back to Harlan Coben,
Yes.
I've found that whether it's because he's that executive producer, he sticks pretty close. The films stick pretty close to the story.
Which is good, because one of the things I really dislike is when they decide they're going to zhuzh up Agatha Christie for the modern era,
Yes,
and in the
yeah.
process, they
Destroy the
mess
story.
with half the book, or they change the ending, and you're like, "Look, hang on a minute. If you want to present an Agatha Christie story, then why are you messing with it? If you want to do that, write an original story.
Yeah.
I think I've told this story before that my wife is a great Anne Cleeves fan.
Yes.
Oh yes.
And when Shetland first came onto the television, she was saying to me, this doesn't make sense. She said, that person shouldn't be in this story because he doesn't come into, or he got married to, or he's died, or it was all back to front.
Yeah.
And she actually sent Anne Cleeves, just out of curiosity, dropped her an email. And much to her surprise, got a reply almost immediately from Anne Cleeves, who basically was saying, when you sell your story, you sell your story plus the rights. So once I've got the money and they've got the story, I have no control over what they do to it. And I think that's probably the difference between somebody like Harlan Coben, J.K. Rowling, because they have become very involved in the production of these films. They have probably more say over, I mean, if he's executive producer, he'll have more say over how it's adapted, how much change there is. And I think J.K. Rowling did that with
she's got a tight fist on what
with the
that goes
films.
out, yeah.
They were very true to the books.
Yeah.
And
But-
so far, what I've seen of Harlan Coben's, the Netflix films are very true to the books.
I mean, that's why the last book of Harry Potter was divided into 2 films. Now, whether it could have been made in 1 film, whether that was just to earn more money, I don't know. But it was
Well, they could have edited the book.
Yeah, it was a massive.
It was a monster.
Massive book. Yeah. But people just wanted more, and that was the last one. You see, so I think probably it was an executive decision to make 2 films out of this.
It's funny talking about Harry Potter. We were up in Scotland recently, and my 2 grandchildren came and stayed with us for a couple of days. We got a timeshare place there, and the television had Sky in the lodge, and we found the Sky. They have a Sky channel that is all Harry Potter, and it just plays Harry Potter one after the other.
Oh, my
other.
life.
So we watched a full. I don't know which one we saw, but we saw a full one, full story. But if you wanted to, you could just turn it on in the morning and just go through the whole.
Have a duvet day,
Yeah,
popcorn,
duvet day, yeah.
just watch the lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then a couple of days later, you could do it all over again if you wanted to.
My husband was away on business once, and me and the boys had a Star Wars weekend. We did get dressed, but we just watched one episode after the other of the Star Wars series. I think there were only 3 then, to be honest with you, though. Well, I'm watching Game of Thrones again now.
Oh no, it's funny, isn't it? Now that's a book that I tried, and I got very frustrated with it very quickly. I mean, I thought when I started off,
Why was that?
It was very good because there was too much description in it. There was at one point where these armies were gathering to have a fight, and I got to the point where thinking, I don't really care.
Just fight.
What colour the flags are and the livery that they're wearing, and the fact he's got a shield that's got this on that, and he's got a shield that's got. And I'm thinking, you've been telling me this for the last 3 chapters, and I don't really care. Just tell me what. I just get to the action.
Oh, it's that epic fantasy thing, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, we had somebody at our writing group. Do you remember? Who was writing an epic fantasy, and when every read bits out, we said to him, "Cut it back."
Yeah.
Yeah,
because that's what they do. Well, I've not been able to read Lord of the Rings because I find all the names very confusing because they're so similar. It's but love the stories and absolutely adore the films. I've watched them so many times. But yeah, I'm watching. What did I just say I was watching?
Talking about Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
Game of Thrones.
Thank you. I'm watching Game of Thrones.
We got back there eventually.
That might be called a senior moment.
It was.
Yeah.
Watching Game of Thrones because the first time I watched it with John, and a lot of it I watched from behind a pillow. Because of all the gory bits and things like that. So now I know what's going to happen. I'm watching bits and go, actually, I must have missed that. I don't remember that last time. So I'm sat there watching it quite relaxed, whereas before I was like, they're not going to do it. Oh, they have. They're not going to cut it. Oh, they have cut it off.
Ew.
Oh, yes.
Blimey.
There's a lot of that.
See, I've never had the urge to watch it. Or read the book, really.
Yeah, it was the dragons that attracted me.
Ah,
I've got to say, it was the dragons.
What's this? Which
the
Game
dragons in Game of Thrones.
Game of Thrones.
I was woken up.
I've never watched it. Sorry, no, I hadn't gone to sleep.
The other thing is, of course, there's so many.
It's all right, you didn't snore.
As you were saying, there's a lot of threads going through it. There's lots of things happening at the same time. And I think when I watched it the first time, I was getting a bit confused where we were going off to.
Yeah.
Whereas now I'm okay. I can follow it much better on the second viewing.
Yeah.
The reason I'd gone quiet then is I wasn't asleep, honestly. But I've just read a book recently called The Lost Diary of Samuel Pepys.
Oh, I remember you mentioning that.
And it's a historical book, very good. And it's by a chap called Jack Jewers, Jewers.
Oh, never heard of him.
No, I think it might be his first book. I'm not sure. Lost Diary of Samuel Pepys. And what I liked about it is that obviously this chap has done his research on. It's set 1669, which is 3 years after the fire of London.
Oh, has he excavated his cheese?
I think he's dug it up and eaten it. Yes. Yeah. So it's set 3 years afterwards. And there is the historical context, though, is accurate. So he's obviously done his research, but you don't get bombarded with it. It's the story that is the important thing.
Yes.
There's a great bit in there where Samuel Pepys has an operation. It turns out he's got bladder stones.
Oh yeah, kidney stones.
Kidney stones, yeah. And I won't go into detail, but the
No,
operation
please
in
don't.
1669 was not pleasant.
It isn't now, but you're asleep.
No,
I imagine a lot of brandy was involved.
yeah, he wasn't asleep.
Oh,
But no, great book. But I liked it because while the historical context was there and it was accurate, I've read books before where somebody's done all the research and therefore feels as though you have to have it all.
They've
yeah,
got
that's
to
the
use that because
worst.
they spent time doing it.
yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
I'm sure I read about somewhere like the research iceberg. So you only see you should only see about 10% of the research that got done. And I've had this myself where you like go chasing down a rabbit hole after some kind of historical detail. And then you think, yeah, but they wouldn't have said whether the lamps were electric lamps or gas lamps. They wouldn't have cared. They were just lamps.
Yeah.
All that matters is if they're on or off.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't matter whether they've got the new carbon filaments or whatever.
I know. In one of my books, I did some history on the Knights Templar.
Yes.
And,
I enjoyed that one.
Yes,
I mean, I enjoyed them all, but I did enjoy that one.
but it's drawing the line between giving people the information that's needed for the story to progress. And like you say, well, this is I find this really interesting.
Yeah. So if
But
I do,
person-
you're going to.
Yeah. I mean, I quite like the device you used where you have a character doing research to try and understand a
why
bit of background, which lets you do a little bit of an info
why somebody's been
dump
murdered
without,
yeah.
making it.
I read an interesting
Horrendous.
thing some years ago, which was more to do with science fiction stories and dystopian stories.
Yeah.
And they say if you're going to ask people to suspend belief because you're taking them into a dystopian society or into a science fiction different world, you can't then go and explain why the doors open the way they do or why it is that one person can teleport somewhere else. You have to, the reader has to accept that's the reality.
That's what happens now.
You know, and if you've got to explain it all to them, then
That'd be a bit boring.
That's exactly it. You know, you lose the story then
Yeah.
because you're spending all your time trying to explain the world.
Yeah, you shouldn't have to. But should you?
Well, not if you've written it not if you've written it well. No, and if your sort of reader in dystopian and science fiction stories would know it's a different world and would quickly pick up on.
I mean, you just have to kind of think, well, it is how it is.
Yes,
The Machine Stops, which is I'm trying to remember who the bloke that wrote Dave the Triffids. Wyndham. Thank you.
John Wyndham.
I think it was him.
John.
It's a short story, and it's set in the future, and people are living not the way we live, but none of it has to be explained.
No.
Because you just accept that's the way it is.
Yeah.
You know.
Ian Forster, by the way.
Oh, is that who it is?
Yeah,
sorry.
surprisingly.
Yeah, sorry. But it's one of those things where like they live in little cubicles and they don't talk to people. They talk through a screen, which we're getting a bit like that now. And this woman has to get on a train. And she doesn't want to. She's terrified of getting on this train, because everything's grinding to a halt. Hence the title, The Machine Stops.
Yeah. Have you ever read or watched the series of Philip Pullman's?
Yes.
I'm trying to think.
Dark Materials?
Yes, Dark Materials.
Yes.
I tried the series and I couldn't get on with it,
right.
but I loved the books.
Yeah, the books were great.
I think it was the main character. I just couldn't see it. It's a magic beast. Was it? It's an armoured bear. Yes, we know it's an armoured bear.
Yeah.
But there you've got to suspend belief.
Yeah.
You know, with all this.
yeah.
I mean, it's quite. I mean, it always amazes me that they're supposed to be children's stories because they're quite dark and they're
Yeah.
quite complex.
Yeah.
I was in bits.
Yeah, lots of complexes.
I like the souls of
Yes,
their
yeah,
animals
yeah,
that sit on their
yeah.
shoulders. And all
But if
that.
you had to spend time explaining all that,
you'd give up, wouldn't you?
you'd lose. You wouldn't carry on reading it.
No.
You just
Yeah.
accept it that's what happens.
Yeah.
So back to Harlen Coben.
I know what I was going to say
If
about
we
Harlan.
can.
Rabbit hole.
But what I was going to say about Harlen Coben is that one of the things that he does is he writes very short chapters.
Oh, does he?
To keep the pace going. And the other person who does that, of course, I think does it very well, is
Dan Brown.
well, no, Richard Osman.
Oh yeah, Dan
He's-
Brown does as well. Though, if you
He's
read
a,
his
he's a
books.
very short
because
chapters.
I've just been reading a Terry Pratchett.
Oh right.
And
No.
sometimes he doesn't even have chapters, but this one I was reading, it was a reread of Going Postal. So I fancied a bit of fantasy reading in another world for, research reasons partly. And the chapters are like 20 or 30 pages long.
Oh right.
Yeah.
Oh, that's surprising.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's
And
a long chapter.
The thing is, it feels like a real commitment because you think, right, well, I've got 26 pages until I get to... So do I actually have the energy to do the whole chapter? And quite often you think, I'm not sure I do.
No.
Whereas if it was Richard Osman, he'd be like, oh, yeah, easy, do another one.
I mean,
I think with Harlen Coben too, I mean, the short chapters help the fact that he's forever twisting things around. You know, there's always another twist coming in, another character coming in, or something happening that you didn't think was going to happen.
Yeah.
And I suppose the short chapters help with that.
and again with Dan Brown, that's the same sort
Yeah.
of thing. It's
that
short,
pace.
sharp. Yeah, keeps
keeps
you
the
wanting to
pace
turn
going.
the pages over.
Yeah.
So
Do you reckon they came up with this at Amherst?
I think they were
if
friends.
we become authors, we're going to the shortest chapters you've ever seen.
Apparently, Harlen Coben was one of the first people to read the Da Vinci Code. So whether he did it as a proofread or as what we would call a beta reader,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well,
But,
maybe, his mate gave it to him.
yes,
Tell me if
what
it's
do you think?
rubbish, won't
Yeah.
you?
yeah.
Yeah.
That's it. That's interesting. I like that.
Yeah.
I think with that, have you got anything else to mention? Anybody?
No.
We okay?
Can't think of
No,
anything.
don't-
We've been down so many rabbit holes in that one.
Yes.
Don't
But we
forget-
came back up again.
We did,
We
into
got
the
back
light.
to Harlan Coben.
Yeah.
Don't forget to have a look at our blog blog.
Yeah.
We need to
I got there
record
in
you
the
doing
end.
this
Yes,
bit.
yeah.
Maybe not that
No.
specific instance, but you know.
So like, subscribe, and share if you really want to.
Yeah, and if you
Please,
know
please,
someone
please.
else who you think might enjoy listening to us ramble on every week at 5:00 on a Thursday, then by all means tell them about us.
And if you've got any ideas as to what you think might make a good theme for us to ramble on about, then
Or divert from.
or ignore completely, then please let us know.
Yes, we're always open to suggestions as long as they're not rude. Can I just point that out?
Depends on the level of the rudeness.
Yes.
It does. If it's a rude way, you can go ho ho ho. That's all right. So I will close now, and I hope you've enjoyed this episode and that you tune in again this time next week. So from all of us, bye. You have been listening to Only Murders in My Mind, a Random Thought production, produced by John Bissett. The music in Peril was composed and recorded by OM Studio Strings.